This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
Well, hey there, ye old faithful viewer. Hope you had a good Christmas, and I know Kenny will echo the sentiments when I say we are thrilled that you have decided to join us for the final show of 2019 simply because it's a good one.
Yeah, that's right. This week, we're going to bring you our annual Reporter Picks edition, the stories we enjoyed most during 2019. Coming up, their grapes, high quality, their reputation, impeccable. So what separates this Georgia winery from the others? We'll explain. Also on the program, this state-of-the-art facility has provided healing through equine therapy for 25 years. Why its owners say there is no other job she'd rather have.
And then later, no, that is not some prehistoric creature. It's actually the result of irresponsible pet ownership. Ranger Nick's quest to capture the Tegu Lizard. These stories and so much more starting right now on the Farm Monitor. Well, let's be honest. At the heart of every FFA chapter are the advisors and teachers. Role models? Absolutely. They work diligently in developing future leaders of ag with endless amounts of time both in and out of the classroom. Something that can really make a difference in the life of a child. Here's John Holcomb with his favorite story of 2019.
If you go to the Georgia FFA State Convention, there's one thing you'll notice. Lots and lots of blue jackets. But there's one other thing you'll notice usually hanging right around them, and that's their FFA advisors. Talking with them and maybe even coaching them for an event, making an impact in their lives and maybe not even know it, like Mr. Wilcox's ag teacher did.
I went to Telfair County High School where my ag teacher's name was Doug Williams, and it all started one day. I was in the library and I was in the 8th grade at this point, and he came in and he said, "Hey, my parents, we raise cattle." He said, "Hey, your dad has bought cows for him." And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I want you to take my class when you come to high school." So in 2009, when I went to high school, I signed up for his class.
And from there, the rest is history. He ended up loving the class and ended up really developing a good relationship with his teacher.
He took me up under his wing. He showed me how to be a leader. I went to a lot of leadership contests. I did a lot of leadership camps. I was the president from 2011 to 2013 when I graduated. He pretty much just showed me what FFA was about.
He ended up loving the FFA so much and was so impacted by his own ag teacher, he decided to become one himself. He now teaches ag mechanics at Toombs County High School, and he told me he's excited to have them at convention this year.
My hopes and dreams and bringing them back to these things, it just kind of sheds more light on why I teach ag, and I've tried to explain to them each and every day in our classroom lessons and talks and my life lessons, as they call it. I try to explain to them, how FFA can be a big impact on them, and I demonstrate that by showing them what it done for me.
What's amazing is that Wilcox is just one of many students that have been impacted by their ag teacher. I spoke to one other FFA advisor that also told me that it was his ag teacher that sparked his interest in ag and FFA so much, he decided to become an ag teacher as well.
My ag teacher was somebody that influenced me a lot, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have this opportunity. And so I decided I wanted to become an ag teacher. As one, starting FFA so late, I still had that urge to be a part of it, and so I didn't want it to stop. And so I knew that becoming an ag teacher, I would still be involved with the organization.
He also said that mentoring kids like he was mentored also was a driving force behind his decision to pursue a career as an ag teacher.
What drove me to be an ag teacher was knowing that I will be able to take that kid that is not comfortable participating and get them to participate, because I was that kid, and I feel like I could make that connection between them.
As it can be shown through the lives of Felipe and Tomel, the FFA is a great organization that can really make impacts in the lives of kids that will last a lifetime.
FFA to me means it gives you a place of belonging, because FFA has so many facets in it, whether you want to be in leadership, whether you like teamwork. I mean, FFA, it just encompasses a whole wide range of many different things that will help and make an impact on each student's life.
Reporting in Macon for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
All right, John, thanks so much. Located in Cleveland, Georgia, Yonah Mountain Vineyards reportedly has one of the largest solar programs in the region. The solar aspect, a growing trend in the wine industry, more so in California, which accounts for about 90% of the wine produced in the U.S. But as Damon Jones reports, you don't have to travel thousands of miles to find good vintage or voltage, for that matter.
From the outside, this might just look like another beautiful vineyard tucked away in the foothills of Yonah Mountain. But take a closer look and you'll find it's one of the most energy efficient, environmentally friendly operations in the entire state. In fact, they recently became the only winery on the East Coast to use solar panels as their main source of energy.
Well, we've actually been talking about solar since the beginning. We love to be on the cusp, the cutting edge. My father and I love technology and electronics, and we always loved this whole idea, and we married together with sustainability. We got the right solar company, and we got together with them, and they priced it out for us. And so we said, let's get as big as we possibly can, and which is around 60 to 70% of our annual usage. And so we pulled the trigger last year. We started the project in August, and we finally came online late February of this year.
While the installation was both expensive and time-consuming, in the long run, it will not only help the environment, but their pocketbook as well.
So our March power bill was the first full month that we got. So last year's March bill was about $2,500, and this year's March bill was $800.
Between the solar panels, LED lighting, charging stations, and even a bee colony, Yonah Mountain Vineyards is helping lead the way in sustainability.
I always felt it was a huge necessity. Like, if we can help the environment and do more things for the planet and be more environmentally friendly and, more sustainable in every single way we can, I think, it's kind of our duty to do that.
That's not the only thing this operation is known for, though, as they also produce some of the highest quality wine on the market.
I said, if I'm going to do this and make wine, I want to make really good wine. I don't want to just make wine. The way I determined that was blind taste tests. And I would take our wine against some fine wines out of California, $100 bottles, $200 bottles, gather people together. We'd have 15 people tasting, and 10 out of the 15 thought our wine would be better than the expensive wines from California. That's when we knew we had a pretty good product.
65 to 80% of the time, we will beat those wines. So we know that it's possible to grow good grapes right here in Georgia, and one of these decades, we're going to be on the map, just like Napa Valley or Burgundy or Bordeaux.
And that type of quality doesn't come easy, as they use some of the best products on the market while also paying attention to the small details.
To do what we do, our yeast product is much more expensive. We use French oak barrels, which are $1,200 instead of $300 American oak barrels. The energy effort we put into it is a lot more than what a very simple large winery would be doing.
While places like Napa Valley and Sonoma are considered the pinnacle of wine production in the U.S., Miller believes that Georgia could soon earn that kind of reputation.
So I love the wine snobs to come and visit us, because there's not a good reputation for wine necessarily in Georgia. A lot of people think it's not a very good product, so I just said, come and see us, taste our wine, see what you think, and we turn people around.
Reporting from Cleveland, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Damon, thanks so much. Harnessing the connection between horses and people is what Reins of Life has been doing for 25 years. Their heartwarming story when the Farm Monitor continues.
All right, welcome back to the Farm Monitor and our Reporter Favorites edition of 2019. In its 25th year, Reins of Life in Stevens County is the benchmark of what equine therapy programs strive to be. With an average of 400 clients per year from 5 different counties, their services include everything from autism to survivors of human trafficking. And as you're about to hear, Reins of Life owner Cheryl Harris truly feels it was a higher power that specifically chose her as a vehicle to heal others. On one hand, Cheryl, you have your love of horses. On the other, there's that human compassion for mental health, physical health, and the well-being of people. How did those two come together?
Well, that's a long story, and I'll try to keep it short. It started when my husband and I became foster parents back in the 90s, and we started having kids in our care in our home and saw that they have no way to complete anything. They never get a sense of accomplishment in their lives, which is so vital for your mental health. So we decided to create a program, and a friend offered the use of their farm for that. So we started a 6 weeks program working with kids from foster care or from Department of Juvenile Justice, taking referrals from them, and we didn't have a clue what we were doing. We just thought we did, but we didn't. And as time went on, there are several organizations who have become available in the United States to train people to do this work effectively, professionally, ethically, and we took those trainings and became certified in those ways, and the program just grew from there. We just started getting all these referrals from different people, and boom.
And you look at some of these, animals around the kids. What is it between that relationship between these, even the special needs kids, even kids with developmental disabilities? Mm-hmm. What is it about that relationship between the animal and that person?
It's really hard to put words to it. Horses just seem to have an innate ability to look at someone and read them. Horses are prey animals and we're predators, and that makes it a very unique, dynamic relationship. Usually prey animals are always watching to see if a predator is going to hurt them, but somehow, as they've been used more and more in this kind of work, they've figured out a way to not only be okay with predators surrounding them, but to actually want to serve them. And I personally feel like that's a gift from God. I feel like God gifts them with the ability to see somebody and say, I can help you, or let me help you. And it is amazing how often they will do things for our clients and participants that they would never do for us.
The lessons that are learned here are enormous. You learn social skills, you learn how to work with animals, but make that bond to connect. You're not just becoming friends with somebody, you're taking care of an animal. You're grooming an animal, you're cleaning up after that animal, you're caring for that animal. I've seen them change coming out communication-wise. I've had some students that have had so many fears that just even fears of going into a different place that they've never been to. And I've brought them out here, and at first they were hesitant, and then by the end of the 8-week program, they are on a horse, riding a horse, and asking to come back.
I watched you and studied you very carefully.
Oh no.
You never lost your smile. You were smiling every step of the way. It's almost like you were put on this earth to do this. This is where you belong.
I agree with you. I think that is my mission, my life's work, if you would. I don't know why I've been blessed that way, because I don't deserve it any more than anybody else does. I really love that I get to live my passion, and I realize that not everybody gets to do that. And I don't know why I do, but I love that I do. I love the work I do. I love watching the kids. I love watching the way that the horses interact with them and how they grow and change and just learn about themselves and about life. And that empowers me and gives me a lot of satisfaction in life.
Well, hey everybody, Ranger Nick coming up. I'm checking traps with Georgia DNR to find out about a reptilian invasive species and its potential impact on agriculture in Georgia. Will we find any? Stick around.
So when you look around, if someone didn't know any better, you really wouldn't think a major storm came through here. I mean, you don't see much damage now, but obviously we know better. Take us back, Mr. Long, to those days following Hurricane Michael. I mean, just how bad was it? Set the scene for us.
Well, you know, on October the 10th, that morning, I was in Macon, and I talked to the wife and to our son Justin, and I said, I think I'll come home. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think I'll come home though. So I did, and by probably 3 o'clock, the wind really started picking up. By 7 o'clock, on October the 10th, that afternoon, it really started getting bad. And so 1 year ago this morning, when we woke up to leave the house at daybreak, we could go neither direction on the highway, because there was trees all on the highways and all.
Bainbridge was one of the areas heavily affected by the storm. Bainbridge, of course, the hometown of Georgia Farm Bureau President Gerald Long.
Obviously, downtown Bainbridge, a lot of buildings, a lot of damage. But in the year, this town has really come together. What does it say about this community?
Well, this town has always been a real close-knit town, and it done a lot of damage to a lot of our historic buildings. A lot of the older houses has been here for many years. And so it had a very major impact, but our local government really pulled together, the leadership. And remember, these families go way back for generations. So they pulled together, started the next day cleaning up, and they still is. It's not rebuilt yet because of that, a year later.
Right.
So it's been I guess it's a lot of good comes out of things like that by communities coming together and working together. It's been great.
You as president of Georgia Farm Bureau, talk a little bit about how this organization came together and really reached out to people in need.
Well, immediately we saw that we needed to step up and help the farmers in some way. And that's when we started the Disaster Relief Fund. We was able in a very short period of time to raise some $665,000. We went through application process, and within a month and a half to 2 months time, we've got the applications, and we dispersed the money to the ones that applied for it. And every penny that was raised by us through the donors and not just donors in Georgia, it was throughout the country that donated to this cause.
Right.
And every penny went back to the farmers themselves. Now, it made no one whole. There's no way we could make anyone whole, because out of that $665,000, the applications we got added up to $126 million damage. So that's just a small fraction, but that was our way of saying, we know you're hurting, we want to help whatever way we can to help rural Georgia.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for having us down
Thank you,
here.
Ray.
Thank you.
Well, finally this week, as we embark on 2020, we do so knowing that the next 12 months will be full of enthusiasm. That's because Ranger Nick plans to join us for his 6th full season here on the Farm Monitor, and there's no telling what he has in store for us. Back in June, Nick ventured down to South Georgia in search of a prehistoric-like creature that, if not contained, could have serious effects on Georgia agriculture.
Well, look at this beauty. Is this not the cutest thing you've ever seen? No, I'm just kidding. This is a beautiful reptile, the Tegu Lizard, but it's one that is potentially causing a problem here in Georgia. If you're a pet owner and love to have those pets at home, I'm hoping and assuming you're a responsible pet owner, knowing about that thing and how long it's going to live and what kinds of things it needs to be taken care of. However, that lizard has found itself here in Georgia because of irresponsible pet ownership and maybe getting out from exotic species cages. And I want to introduce you to somebody that knows a thing or two about the Tegu Lizard. That's John Jensen. Hey, John.
Hey, Nick.
Good to be with you today.
Glad to be here.
Oh, man, thanks so much for joining us. John is an expert in wildlife biology and the Tegu Lizards, and John, Georgia DNR, believes that this guy is a potential problem here in Georgia. I would look around South Georgia and think this is a beautiful, warm habitat for this guy. However, from an agricultural standpoint and a wildlife management standpoint, we've got some issues. John, what's the problem potentially with this guy in Georgia?
Well, absolutely. This is a non-native species. It's native to South America, so it's adapted for that part of the world, and the animals that are there are adapted to deal with it there. Okay. Our wildlife is not adapted to deal with it, and we're really concerned that it existing on our natural landscape is going to be problematic to a lot of our species, including game species, as well as some of our endangered species, and even farmers have a reason to be concerned.
So are they eating baby animals? Are they eating? What kind of things are they feeding on?
So they're considered omnivores. They eat plant and animal matter. They're not very good climbers, so most of what they're eating is pretty low to the ground. Strawberries would probably be the crop that's somewhere around here that would probably be most impactful for farmers. They definitely love eggs, and so we have a lot of concern about their impact on poultry farms, which are definitely quite abundant in this area.
Interesting.
That we know that they'll take gopher tortoises, hatchling gopher tortoises. They'll eat anyone's eggs. We've got documentation of them eating eggs from alligator nest. Anything that they can reach, they can probably eat.
So being able to understand these guys and study their patterns and their behaviors is going to be really important. And what I want to talk about is that potential impact on the ag fruit industry, the chicken industry. And I want to talk next, John, about what Georgia DNR is doing about this guy and how you're studying it. Because literally, John, how old of a problem is this? Has this been decades or how old?
We actually just learned of this problem July of last year, 2018. But since we've been talking to some of the locals around here, we think this problem has been going on for at least a couple of years prior to that.
Interesting. And here on the Farm Monitor, we're bringing this up and bringing it to your attention to study this. So John, let's go and find out what y'all are doing to study this guy. We'll go there next. Well, what we're looking at right here is a burrow that was been created by the Tegu Lizard. You know, they get into burrows and they create their own burrows, according to John. And John, we're talking about this being an emerging issue. Really, within the past year or so, Georgia DNR is starting to study this, and we're bringing it to you now. John, we're standing by a have-a-heart trap.
Yep.
What kinds of things are you all doing to understand this problem and understand this species?
Well, we're trying to figure out, first of all, where all they occur in Georgia. Okay. We've got, about 20 different sightings from folks, and from that information, ideally, they've got a photo that verifies what it is. Okay. And we've gotten quite a few of those. Okay. Then we go to the sites and look for tracks, look for some kind of evidence about exactly where the habitat they're using. Okay. And we're setting out traps in order to learn something about the population, how many there are, what kind of sex distribution there is, while at the same time trying to eradicate these animals. So any animals that we catch, we euthanize. Okay. And at this site, we've caught 6 different individuals using this burrow, presumably.
Interesting. So you're putting the trap out, and to get these things into the trap, how you baiting them?
We're baiting them with raw eggs. We crack one egg right at the entrance to get the smell there, and then put a whole one in the back. Okay.
Eating those eggs and doing those kind of things. And John, we're standing in an ideal habitat, just kind of early successional overgrowth with honeysuckle and wild grape, and this is where they love to live.
That's what we're learning, but we don't know if this is truly ideal. This is just where we've caught them. We haven't caught enough to really say for sure if this is, ideal or not. We do work a lot with the Florida Fish and Game folks who have been dealing with 3 populations of their own down in South Florida and have been dealing with it for a longer time than we have. So we're getting a lot of good information from them. They're using a little bit different habitat there than they are here, which isn't surprising because that's South Florida and we're Georgia. Yeah. But yes, what we're learning is they seem to like these thicket areas and usually near some kind of burrow, whether they made it themselves or whether they're taking up burrow that some other animal made.
Well, if you're sitting at home wondering, what can I do to help Georgia Department of Natural Resources with this invasive species and impact in a positive way agriculture, John, what would you say?
First and foremost is to report sightings of them. If you see them, we need to know about it. That helps us locate places to potentially trap. Ideally, get a photograph of them. Each individual has a unique pattern, so we can match up photos and see if we're looking at the same animal or different animals from a particular area, so that's really beneficial.
Which is so cool, not to interrupt you, that pattern, like a zebra, that different pattern, you can tell, oh, that's Bob over there, we've seen him before or whatever. Go ahead, sorry, that's cool.
No. And certainly if you're a landowner that has them on your property and you have a way to safely and humanely dispatch of them, we encourage that. We're euthanizing those that we trap. We're trying to reduce and ideally eliminate this population.
Yeah, and it all starts with responsible pet ownership, I think, too. So these guys, if they were someone's pet, knowing how big they get, knowing what they eat, and knowing what kind of care they need is going to hopefully prevent someone from giving up and saying, I'm turning this thing loose back out in the wild. John, I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I know y'all have enjoyed this too. And y'all, you just finished watching the 60th Ranger Nick segment. Can you believe it? You put up with me for 60 segments. Thanks so much. I can't thank you enough. I enjoy this every month. We're going to do another 60. While you're hopping around online, checking out the Georgia Farm Monitor Facebook page, check out the Ranger Nick Facebook page and see what I got going on in my classes. It's summer, a little bit quieter during the summer. We got good stuff going on. And until next time, for the Farm Monitor, John, as I always say, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you right back here again next month. See ya.
Like a little kid, isn't he?
He sure is.
Hope you enjoyed our reporter favorites of 2019. Here's to 2020 and year 54 of this show.
From all of us here at the Farm Monitor, Happy New Year, everybody. We'll see you next year.